There is a interesting human behavior in making humanoid robots, because to me, and to a lot of people, this has like been talked about by people way smarter than me. There is this weird thing of like deserved servitude. Like I need something humanoid to be subservient to me, and it evokes some horrific, you know, aspects of our past.
Siri has to be polite and like friendly, and it can't be like, yep, okay, pop that in the reminder.
The one, and we've talking about this before, so I'll bring this up now because it feels relevant. Can we pull up that video of Kai Cenat and friends like beating up the robot? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw his response to.
I actually didn't see his response. I'm curious.
I think his response is something like people are reading too much into it, and it's like I think people were responding to something very real that's like subtle that they're seeing.
I would, yeah, because I'm curious, because in my mind, I think people aren't reading. He might not be reading enough into it.
Yeah, he's also really young. It's with a lot of these people, it's like we've essentially, I feel like especially with streaming now being so huge, created like this internet culture where 5 to 15-year-olds are being raised by 15 to 25-year-olds. And it's like, I mean, I kind of was part of that problem. I mean, I was in my early 20s, like giving advice on the internet, and I look back and I'm like, what the fuck did you know about anything?
We have that in our culture, right? Like you have older siblings, you have mentor type figures who are giving advice to a younger generation, and that is not inherently bad, but we've also deprioritized and villainized actually learning anything about the world, or questioning anything about the systems that like drive our world. And so people with immense influence have no incentive to learn a single fucking thing.
Or iterate on things that are already known. Instead, it's just gather as much of the advice as possible and then behave based on that advice.
Also,
as
or to
opposed to
challenge
like,
anything.
Friction of any kind.
If I'm a rich, successful young person, there are no forces that are challenging me to change any opinion that I have about anything. And I have the power and influence to just say whatever I think or feel and never feel any discomfort.
Which must be right, because I'm doing it.
We have now like been on the receiving end of like offers from some of these like gambling companies, and they're insane. They're like so much money. And it's like
it is a compromise your principles figure. That's like what they
and
offer.
it's like, oh, okay, so that's how this works, right? Because like like if we were any less scrupulous about our morals, it'd be like, well, sure, that sounds awesome.
You know, a razor company comes along and then they offer that same amount of money. I'm like, did you guys like use child blood for something?
Yeah, what happened? What controversy did you get into?
This is the video of Kai Cenat kicking his robot.
Oh, they're like verbally abusing it, dude. That's so weird. This is me shooting civilians and I thought I was like a 13-year-old.
Oh.
Where your mom's at?
Whoa. He's a robot.
That's also super dangerous with the way that these things are like spring-loaded. Like,
yeah, they've got like real like torque behind them.
At no point have I ever seen like a Boston Dynamics robot. I'm like, I should put my hand near the limbs.
Yeah.
Let me see where the axis point is. And like, really, I gotta say, I did laugh initially because of that big kick, and that is funny to me.
Well, that's like America's
slapstick.
Funniest home videos, like fall.
Yeah, like when a parent kicks a child. America's Funniest Home Videos.
Dodgeball bumps in there like an infant.
It's crazy how long that show was like America. It was like such a all-American show. Watch some of the worst days of these people's lives.
That, then baseball.
A baby getting double bounced on a fucking trampoline.
I was expecting to find that Kai Cenat thing like a little funnier because I'm kind of a bad bloke, but I didn't know how kind of just real bully vibe it had, like yelling, the verbal stuff, but then also the shoves were too light. They were too like what you do to a real kid that's getting bullied.
Feels mean, and I think that's one of the things is like I can understand, I don't agree with, but can understand Kai being like, it's not real. We weren't, but the thing people were pointing out is like, but it felt kind of real, and that's the weird part about it.
It really was the lightness of the push, the first
Yeah,
that's like, oh, you guys did that at school, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's weird to force me to feel empathy for a robot.
If they kicked its head off, I would have laughed really hard. That would have been funny.
But if I'm like playing Baldur's Gate and there's like a character that I accidentally wrong, like I do feel bad. It's not a real person, but like I feel like if something feels a little human, there's something naturally in you that you'd hope you would want to treat it better. And so then when I think you see something like that, you're like, it's not the worst thing that's ever happened, but also it's one where it's like, it feels really mean looking at it.
It's indicative of other, like, no, it's a butterfly. I can pull its wings off.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, when people are cruel to other people, usually that requires removing their humanity and like not seeing them as a peer or a person. And this is just like by default, it doesn't have any of that. What was his? I do want to give him the grace of seeing his response or whatever if it's short.
I think I just saw a clip of it on Twitter once. I'm not sure if it's like easily accessible, but also I don't know about you guys. I see a video like that and I'm like, Kai, just in case we start putting AI in these fucking, like even the current chat GPT in one of these robots, don't give it a video to interpret. Like, listen,
don't give it data, please.
I ain't gonna lie, it's weird, bro. Like, I would think if I spent this much money on something, I'd be able to do whatever I want to it, but it's not.
So that makes it worse.
Okay.
Holy shit, dude. That's crazy.
That makes it worse. He's like, this robot, sure, like walks around like a person, but this is my property.
Oh, it's because it was
for it.
5 figures. If you bump that up, maybe 6 or 7, then I can throw it into lava.
It's also so interesting to start with money, to be like, well, I spent so much money on it,
It's
so
like you
it's
guys were
mine.
saying, that's the metric. Like, well, it can't be wrong. So I'm succeeding because I have this money. So it must be because of it, whatever, I'm going crazy. So then I paid 70,000 and it was bad. So what's the thing that's good?
Also, you were allowed. You did it successfully. And you profited off of it.
How old is Kai?
Old enough, unfortunately.
11.
I think he's like 24 at this point.
Yeah, he's 23.
23.
It's still like, I'm not giving an excuse for it. It's just like, Kai is so young with such a massive platform. And the same thing I feel like happens with a lot of these streamers where I'm like, you popped off at maybe like 20. And so you haven't had like any adult real life experiences where you're not like mega famous and mega wealthy.
Right.
And I feel like it does put you in situations kind of like this where it's just like,
I mean, it happens with just rich kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but the issue is you now never will. Right? Like,
Never could,
it's like, when is that experience supposed to happen?
That's not my first intention to bully the nigga. I was testing out a feature to make sure that motherfucker was. And even if I was bullying the nigga, then like, what the f? You feel me? It's low-key scary. I feel like we're losing touch of reality. You pour a little water on this motherfucker, the nigga is finished. I control everything that he does.
Oh, I gotta. The robot was like, I don't want to say the N-word, man. I think I better get at it.
It is unfortunately nuanced, and that is very difficult to communicate on the internet. And so I understand why he's confused, because why would he have any connection to the ethical concerns of like these things, or what it can mean for these behaviors?
And he has to say something now.
Or what it can represent to people.
Yeah.
What it can represent to people. And because it says, like, who knows? Like, I'm just saying, I'm not surprised that people were upset or felt a way about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things though where it's like you get what he's basically, I think, trying to say, like, this thing is like an RC car. Like, it does.
You're
but
losing
like,
in touch with reality by thinking I shouldn't do this.
Yeah, the point other people are making is like, if you grabbed a stuffed animal of a dog and then slit its throat, you'd be like, whoa, that's
What
fucking
did you
weird.
like about that?
Yeah, like, it sure was an inanimate object, but it looked cute. Like,
It's like, well, what was
that's
this?
a more extreme version, by the way, that I'm saying. But
No,
it's
but
like,
if you did the same thing to a blow-up doll, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter that it was a robot. It's kind of the like behavior around it. And again, it's like, it's the lightest criticism in the world. And it's like, oh yeah, people have an issue with that because these behaviors mirror a darker thing. Whether or not that's actually happening doesn't matter. People felt away. It moved on with the tides.
Every time we end up talking about Mr. Beast videos, like weird shit that he does, or like weird kind of a little unethical stuff, or doing a thumbnail with, a crying child and it's like 1 like saves 1 African, that kind of stuff. The surface level defense is, yeah, but you did something good. I get it, and I understand what the surface level defense is when I make the criticism. I want to do like an in before. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. There has to be value in just saying, hey, this is demonic. and I don't have to articulate that to you because you should feel it.
You hear him talking in an interview or something, and you can tell there's like a real war in his brain where he's like, from my perspective of the world, I am doing the most good you could possibly do.
Most points in.
Where he's like, I went back to the drawing board and I'm putting water in Africa. I'm doing like schools in Africa. That's
He's got
exactly
the Fable halo and like the aura glow.
He's like, in the world that I grew up in when I was watching reality TV, that was the coolest thing you could possibly do for somebody ever. And then so it's like with that, it's like you're having two different conversations where you're basically like, yeah, but you know, here's like a nuanced conversation about like what that type of content might mean for the kids watching. And he's like, I don't get it, but it's good.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man.
It's like going into a corner store and trying to pay with like Dave and Buster's points.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not that it's wrong in the way you think. You can't do that here. That doesn't matter here.
And that's why I mentioned it, is especially like Kai's age for it too, is just like, I don't know. I think even a discussion like that is something that I would understand more later. And I definitely like, I don't know. There's maybe the reason I say it too is that like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I guess I was for when stuff started, I was a bit younger on YouTube and things.
Absolutely,
and like, there's a lot of things that I was like passionate about that I'm like, I think back to and I'm just like, yeah, I just either was wrong or I don't really like the tone that I put something in, or so I don't know. Maybe if it's like Kai has such a massive platform, so it's tough. But it's like sometimes when I see this, I'm like, I know somebody who's 16 and listening to this will be like, he's fucking 23, dude. And I'm like, I'm 28, and I'm like, yeah. I was pretty dumb when I was 23. My frontal lobe developed, and I was like, I need to change the way I'm doing everything online.
I agree. I just think that there has to be someone who is saying
of course,
these things, and then they have to be open to hearing it.
I'm glad the criticism was there, because you watch it and it makes me sad more than anything when they're pushing it around. You just like, you see like what the robot looks like a kid,
it's
and
sour.
then the joke is that like we're bullying a kid on like in like the kind of park, I guess is what it felt like.
Oh yeah, you were testing the self-defense mechanisms. That's why you said all the words. You were play acting a bullying.
Your mom's
situation.
fat and like shove it. You're like, okay.
We're testing its tolerance.
He got
for
one
bullying.
in though with the fucking spring-loaded headbutt.